Thanks to everyone for coming out today. We'll get started with a couple opening comments from Coach, and then we'll go ahead and take questions.
Okay, first of all, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. A lot of thanks goes out. A recruiting class is this big, 30 new kids in the program, 25 scholarship kids. There's a lot that goes into it. And coaches are a big part of it, obviously, and the wives and families of the coaches, all the support people at Wisconsin. They come in on weekends, they do whatever it needs to be, and that's not just during the late recruiting cycle, that's during the season. That's starting the new season right now with recruits and unofficial visits, so there's a lot of people that give their time, and they're very happy to do it. So, our thanks goes out to all of them as for all they do for us and the ability we have to be able to show this wonderful school that we're all very lucky to be part of at the University of Wisconsin. So if you take the class in general and you break it down, big number, we look at the positions of need. A specific need was the offensive line. Able to get those young men in here, it's a good number. The goal is to get that to 16 scholarship players. We made good progress in that area, some tremendous young men there. At the defensive back position is exactly the same. We needed to be bringing some athletes there. And we weren't so much looking for corners or safeties. We were looking for young men that are highly competitive, that love the game of football, that can run. And that was the stamp that we put on that. I think we made some good strides there. And then also at the wide receiver position. We want to create competition at the wide receiver position. And the young men in our program are working very hard to get themselves on the field. They're making strides. But we needed to get that solidified with some good numbers there. Some young men that are going to expect themselves to come in here and compete at a high level. So those were the high need areas. From there, we obviously were able to fill ourselves in with the defensive line, the linebacker spot, kicker, quarterback, so on. But it allowed us to start to get ourselves in a position where we want to be as a staff, and that's fairly equaled out from the freshman class to the senior class, and we made good progress in that area. The assistant coaches, as we went through this process, I get to go into the homes one time, and I really get a 2-hour shot in the living rooms or in the homes, wherever these young men are living, and the kids were very well prepared. The coaches had given a tremendous vision of who we are as a program, as a coaching staff, as a group of individuals, that the kids are on the team, and it was very clear that the parents, the decision makers, mentors, coaches had been well informed. So my hat goes off to those assistant coaches in that area. And then lastly is the importance of the kids that are in this program. We can go sit in living rooms, in offices, we can communicate a vision, we can share our core values, our beliefs, the direction that we believe we're headed as a program. But at that point, that's just all lip service. Until the young man gets in front of our players and he lets the young men know exactly what we are, exactly who we are as a program, and that we are going to take care of players first. That it does matter that you have an opportunity to get a world-class degree, and you're expected to carry yourself at a very high level socially, and the coaches will work hard to change it from a young man to a man. And our players did a tremendous job with that. They're straight shooters, they're upfront and honest. Through this recruiting process, I also appreciate their feedback on the young men that come into our program. They give me honest feedback, and we don't have all the answers when kids walk in here, but this is a special place. And because it's a special place, it's a special fit. And if young men are here for 48 hours and they don't fit, the kids in this program are going to tell me that, and we will move in a different direction at times because I value the opinion of the players. So, we all are grateful to them for their part in this recruiting process also. So, past there's a bunch of questions I'm sure you have, but a fine class of young men, their opportunities to want to move forward and succeed academically is very apparent. Their want to get into a tremendous social environment like we talk about all the time is a driving force for them and their families, and obviously to play at the highest level of football, they get that opportunity at the University of Wisconsin. So from there I'll take your questions.
Gary, a lot of talk about upgrading the speed and athleticism overall. Do you think you made significant strides in that effort?
I do. If you look at the wide receiver position first, you got 5 young men there. What they have in common is they have very good speed, they have good size, and they have tremendous competitiveness, and their expectations are to come in and compete. And if you look at that position, as we went through the recruiting process, it became very apparent that we were going to get attacked Wisconsin doesn't throw the ball, Wisconsin this, why would you go there, you're never going to get the ball thrown to you. But these young men understand the direction and the vision of where the offense wants to go and where we want to take the offense, and we definitely up ourselves in the athleticism there, and the competitiveness and their want to help that offense change. In the backside on the defense, they look and they see that Dez is gone, Tanner's gone, there is 2 corners returning, they play a lot of football. But the bottom line, our 3rd corner last year was Dez that came down, and our 4th corner was an outside backer covering people. So those corners know that there's open spots for them to come in, and those 4 or 5 young men that are in that position to compete as a corner or as a safety is very, very important. And I love the 3 running backs, 10,000 yards out of 3 kids in high school, and they're, again, as much as they're different, they're still the same. They're highly competitive young men and expect to come in and compete with Melvin and compete with Corey, and that's pretty difficult to do, but they're wanting to get that done.
You mentioned 30 kids, and I read 29 on the list. Is there one missing, or the potential of?
We signed 25 and then 5 walk-ons is what it is. So there's 25 and then 5 walk-on kids that we have that should put us at number 30. So unless I'm counting them, that's right.
We're waiting on 1.
Okay. Well, we expect to have 5 walk-ons. We have 4 for sure. We're expecting 1 more. So.
You mentioned the offensive line getting up to 16 scholarship linemen. Where does that stand now?
We will sit in the fall as a number of 14. We won't be able to get any better than that this season, the upcoming season, but we are at 14, and we'll look to get hopefully 16 next year.
Gary, you guys went to a lot of different areas this year, all throughout the country. I'm curious, was there one area that was maybe tougher for you guys to kind of get into, and just talk about how kind of widespread this recruiting class is in terms of number of different states that are represented?
Well, I would say competitively walking into Florida and dealing with the recruiting cycle there was very competitive. I wouldn't say overall it was difficult, because I think that the coaches that were in there did a tremendous job, but that was kind of a new area for us, and we were going after a high-level kid that had many, many opportunities, and the kids on this list had many opportunities, but I'm proud of the way they stuck with us. So that was a highly contested area, and an area we'll continue to grow. Continuing to branch out is important. We're never gonna forget where we're built from, and our foundation is built right here, and that'll never change in the state of Wisconsin and in the Midwest in general. But our ability to truly reach out, we are a program that has the ability to be very well recognized because of the accomplishments of this university for many, many years, and the fact that it is a world-class education. So we can get in any living room, we can walk in any school. People understand that Motion W. It's not real hard to. They're not guessing where you're coming from when you walk in the door, and that gives us the ability to walk in. And so continuing in the Midwest from a relationship standpoint is important. Moving ourselves through the East Coast. We'll have 2 coaches that are in there pretty much full-time, and moving into the Midwest a little bit more compartmentalized, if you will, in the strategic places we need to be. We'll continue down those roads. Georgia will also open up for us, and we'll continue to have 1 coach at least in Georgia full-time.
You were talking about the secondary listing guys who departed. You said Tanner's gone. I'm assuming you just meant to quarterback.
Yeah, Tanner's gone. Yeah, no, Tanner's there. He was running around this morning pretty good, but he was playing quarterback. So he is definitely going to be at the quarterback position in spring football.
Going back to what you talked about, when you talked to recruits about the vision for the offense, can you explain more about that vision and how these signees fit into that vision generally?
Yeah, the vision for the offense is we want to run the football, number one, never change. We want to be a heavy play action team that takes shots down the field, and that'll never change. The challenge is to use our personnel groupings the best as we can, But when I say that, we want to have multiple sets. We want the ability to bring multiple wide receivers on the field, and when I say multiple, I mean 3 and 4 at times. We would love to have the ability to open up the offense in the run game to be able to get to the edges of the defense more effectively. Now that all starts up front, just like the inside run game does, and we've got to become more athletic in those positions at times to be able to get that done. But the vision of the offense is quite simple: is to be an offense that can allow you to not get a beat on us, will not allow you to get a beat on us by down and distance and really by personnel groups. We're able to throw the ball in all personnel groups. We're able to take long shots down the field. We're able to run the ball in all personnel groups and not really be predictable. To do that, you've got to be able to throw the ball and you've got to be able to run the ball consistently. And then lastly, I would say this, football gets a lot easier when you have some playmakers, and you don't have to call the perfect play. You don't have to go 12 plays in 70 yards and, you know, have it scripted out just exactly how you want it to be, first down, second down, third down. It's nice when a kid can catch a big-time ball, break a tackle, and score a touchdown, or you have a back that can go 80 yards at any moment. So we have some of those pieces to the puzzle we need to continue to build.
You mentioned the importance of offensive line with guys like Jaden Galt and George Panos coming in. Do you see them competing for playing time right away?
Really do. You know, with Jaden and Michael coming in at the break here for the semester and already being involved in the program, they have a tremendous opportunity to do that. Jaden will be in the mix. Michael may be the starting center with the injuries at this point to Dan and to Dallas, and so that is a tremendous opportunity for a young freshman at the center spot. Very challenging, but a great opportunity. And you know, George will come in. Some of those offensive linemen, the first three that I mentioned right there, they're physically, they'll have an opportunity to come in and compete in the fall. A couple of those other young men are, you know, a year away from building their bodies up. They understand that. Some of them have played tight end, some of them played defensive end in high school more than they played offensive line, but they're excited to get into the offensive line room and continue to that legacy in a very positive direction.
Sure.
Regarding the injuries to Dan and Dallas, I'm assuming you're talking about Michael starting in the spring.
Yes.
And is Dallas's related to his issue last year, and what's the situation with Dan? And when do you expect those guys back?
They could possibly be involved in spring ball, but they will not be, just to be on the safe side of things. And we have a lot of young men that need as many reps as they can possibly get. So they'll be full go in all summer conditioning, and expect no issues with them walking into fall camp at 100%. And you know, the other part of that is with those young men, you want to have Rob and Costigan get a little break. You know, they're proven players. They got things they need to work on. But we want to have these young guys get a lot of reps in spring football to develop the depth in that offensive line.
Gary, I have two questions. First is, where does a running threat at quarterback fit into that vision of offense?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the second would be, how does Gillens fit that role?
Okay. You know, if you look at the quarterback position, to answer the second one, second part of that question first is, it's going to be very important that we give the quarterbacks an opportunity to compete in spring ball. When I say that, there's only so many reps to go around. So we have got to construct practices in a way for DJ to be able to compete and have an opportunity to be able to play and highlight what he brings to the table. Joel's our starting quarterback. He started all the games last year. It's his spot to lose, so he'll be given that opportunity to obviously compete and get the team around him. DJ, an athletic quarterback, brings a lot to the table if he's prepared to be able to do that mentally, and that's what has to take place for him to have that opportunity. Now, they're going to work together. That quarterback room works very well together, and there may be some opportunities to do some things where you can use him in certain situations or certain scenarios. We'll see how that goes with DJ. I expect him to compete just as well as I expect Bart to compete. Just as I expect Connor to compete. They all want to play. There's a lot of quarterbacks, but there's only so many reps to go around. That is a definite challenge. It's something we're still in the middle of constructing as we move forward to spring ball.
Several of this year's signees were committed to another school at some point during their recruiting process. How do you manage the balance between respecting that decision and then still recruiting them?
Well, to me, there's really no decision to respect. Just because a young man says he's committed to a school does not mean that's the school he's going to. And so we walk into those situations, and kids don't slam the door. They don't walk in. We're not beating down the door to walk into their living room, so let me just put it that way. And we get in and we're able to communicate with the families, coaches, and parents and go through the process. So recruiting is aggressive, recruiting is competitive, it's something that we love, and we're just not going to take no for an answer. And we don't win them all, but we want to get into the highly contested battles of the best kids out there in the country. And when I say that, I mean the kids that we believe and we deem as being the best kids in the country that, again, fit the University of Wisconsin and the vision that we all have, and that all starts at the top with the vision that Coach Alvarez has for all the student athletes here. Again, a unique fit, yes. A very special fit, absolutely. And we need to share that vision before we're going to walk away from anybody, for sure.
With all of the early enrollees that you have coming in here, how much of an edge does that give them to be able to participate in spring ball from your past experiences?
It's a tremendous advantage. If you look at Sojourn from a year ago, you know, the ability for Sojourn to understand daily life, the mentoring, the tutoring, the academic scenario, where am I going, how am I going about it, spring football, the winter conditioning, and now he walks back in the fall and he's so far ahead. It's really a big advantage for all the young men that can come in early. Now, that does not come without challenges. It's not for every young man. It truly is not. They've got to be able to give up half their senior year is basically what they're turning around and giving up. But it's a big advantage. It's supported by us as long as it's supported by the family and supported by the young men. And we really listen to them if they think that their child is ready to be able to do that, and the young man believes that he's ready to do that, then we're full steam ahead. And these kids will have a great opportunity. You know, Austin's going to walk back there in a free safety position in the spring, and he will be right in the mix. And would he get that opportunity, that much of an opportunity in the fall? Probably not.
Coach, it looks like we have 6 scholarship guys from Wisconsin, maybe 1 or maybe possibly 2 getting away. But that said, still, how important is it for you to try and lock down the best players in the state and keep them here, especially when you look at George and Bo with their family ties to the university too?
Yeah, you know, the family ties are important. That's a soft spot in my heart. That's I ended up playing where I grew up, and to play at Wisconsin is very important. These young men in the program, their belief, their care factor, their want to is a little bit better, especially early on, because they have such great respect and they understand the tradition and they understand the expectations of the University of Wisconsin. So to put that Motion W on their helmet and walk out of that tunnel is something that they've been dreaming of for a long, long time. And you know, you recruit the state. The thing you got to remember is, again, as you go through recruiting, it is a process, it is a fit, and just because you come from Wisconsin doesn't mean that you deserve the right to play at Wisconsin. You've got to earn that right through the way you carry yourself on the field, the way you carry yourself off the field, the way you handle your academics throughout your career, and all that stuff matters. There's great football here, there's great football coaches, there's 400 plus high schools, and as you see, there's people coming in here now. And if you've got good players here, it's going to be a highly contested recruiting battle. Fortunately, with the young men in the state this year, it never was really highly contested. This is where they wanted to be. I think what they had to do is understand who we truly are as coaches, and we got that done quickly, and they locked it down, and they were a big part of this recruiting class. So just not just in the state, but throughout the country.
Gary, can you address Thomas Hammock's departure, and is it true that Melvin Gordon's going to be consulted on the successor?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's not a search firm, that's for sure. But you know, first of all, Thomas' situation. Thomas was coaching the running backs this morning at 6:30, and he was part of that. He definitely, since then, has made a decision. It was important for Thomas to be able to get in front of his players and communicate with them. It was a very difficult decision, but Thomas has made that decision. As far as I always believe it's important to talk and communicate and have an open forum with the kids. And when I say that, it's going to be myself educating them on the type of coach that I want to bring in here. Obviously, I look for 2 things. I look for someone who's going to take care of the kids. That's number 1. And number 2, somebody that can recruit. And that's what we'll look for. But when I said that earlier. When I say that, I simply mean that I want Melvin Gordon to be able to communicate with me just like I wanted Melvin Gordon to communicate with me when he was thinking about coming out in the draft. I owe that to Melvin. I owe that to every kid on this football team, to let them lay their head down at night on their pillow and rest assured that I'm doing my best as a head coach to bring a quality person around them that's going to care about them and allow them to move along in life in a quality way.
Gary, you mentioned some recruiting areas earlier, and I know you guys looked at some people out on the West Coast and didn't get exactly what you wanted. Does that still factor in, or how do you reevaluate that moving forward?
No, we'll definitely leave Coach Chad out there on the West Coast, and we were able to get a couple young men there I feel good about, and we got into some fights there and some big-time recruiting battles. And as you look at it, again, it's our conversations with asking young men to move across the country, but the doors that are getting open to them are so special. And some kids see that. Last year, Leon Jacobs saw that. And as soon as we offered Leon, 2 weeks later, Leon had 6 or 7 different offers, and look what Leon brings to the table. So it'll become contagious, and people understand that, yeah, I am moving across the country, but I still have 2 months a year that I can get home and I can spend time with my family. And as we move forward and kids start to understand that, and distance is a factor, more so for some kids than others, and that was a factor this year. At the end, the distance became a factor. I respect that. Those kids grew up in great families, and they want to be able to be there with them. So at the end, I have to respect that. I don't have to think it necessarily is the right decision, but we'll gain momentum out there. We're never going to sign 6 kids from the West Coast, but we can get in there and get a couple of young men. And this year we get over to Hawaii, get Micah. Mike is a tremendous football player, comes from a great situation, and again, he was another perfect example. All of a sudden, he gets 5 or 6 offers after he commits to Wisconsin to be an offensive lineman, and never phased him. And so he'll be with us, and excited about it. So it's an area we need to recruit because of who we are and what this university stands for. It gives us an opportunity to get over there and get a couple kids a year.
Do you know if Ula has definitely decided to take a church mission and delay his enrollment? And then how do you handle situations like that? And do you think that situations like that maybe scare off other teams that don't want to wait for guys that want to go off on a mission like that?
Yeah, well, I'm very used to that. Does it scare off some other people? Yes, they don't understand the process. The plan is right now that is what Ula is going to do. That's obviously a family decision, and Ula in the middle of that. We signed him with either way he goes, but the plan is right now that he will go on a mission, and he'll be back with us. But we'll take him in this program whenever we can get him involved. And he's a tremendous young man, and glad he stuck with us. And he was another one that all of a sudden got hit pretty hard late, and his family stuck very strong and understand what they're getting with the opportunity to come to Wisconsin.
Gary, what's your recruiting philosophy? Do you try to get the best players that fit the student-athlete mold, or do you try to add depth where you need depth the most?
Well, it's both. We're gonna, if you break it down, you get in the door and you start recruiting a guy because of his tape. Well, that's number one. It is football, first thing. Secondly, we sit back and we try to understand who he is as a person and make sure that we do our best homework to see that he fits here and understands his role as a student athlete socially. And then lastly, we look at the academic side of things. And academics don't have to be perfect today if I'm a junior, but they do have to understand that whatever the eligibility center is, whatever their graph is that says, this is me, I'm a qualifier for the NCAA, that doesn't mean they're getting into Wisconsin. So we've got to be able to put an academic plan together for them if we move forward with them and give them the opportunity to understand what they have to do to get in Wisconsin. If they hold up their end of the bargain socially, academically, and athletically, then we continue to recruit them. As far as the fits within the scheme of the program, you get 85 scholarships. You want to be spaced evenly as you can be with freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. So many things affect that. Injuries, kids move along in life. Kids are better players than other players. There's so many situations that go, but we're moving in the direction to become evenly spaced. And last year we had 25 seniors. Next year we have 15. We'd always like that to be, around the number of 18 plus or minus a couple is what you'd like to see as we continue to move forward.
As a walk-on, are we to assume this Jason Andersen will be taking out a loan and paying his own ride?
Yeah, playing his own way. He said he has some of it in his checking account, but I haven't seen that part of it yet. So, but his tuition is paid. Trust me. Lisa took care of that yesterday for me. And he's here. He's doing a good job. He's excited to be around his teammates, and he saw it from afar and the distance for 4 months throughout the season. Was able to make some great relationships with the kids on the team, and he's just excited to get up this morning at 6:30, and he beat me out of the house getting up here to the workout. And he's doing a nice job. I'm proud of him, just like I am of every kid on this football team. And I say it many times, they're all my kids. He's my own flesh and blood, but they're all my kids, so I'm proud of all of them.
I had a follow-up, I guess. The recruiting, there's so many recruiting services out there that'll rate you, 30th in the country, 4th in the Big Ten, whatever it may be. Coaches, a lot of coaches don't buy into that. How do you analyze what you've just brought in here with your coaches, the kind of job that you just did?
The good thing is I finally get an opportunity to evaluate those guys, which I'm looking forward to. In the Super Bowl, I can't, this is not 100% factual, but I got it from social media, so I have to assume it's factual, right? That's the rules. Okay, so 46, of the young men that played in the Super Bowl, when they came out of high school, were 2 stars or less. So that should give you an idea of how we should, put the stock in the rankings. We evaluate our program. I respect what those guys do. I truly do. I understand that it's a big part of this process, and today is a very special day for the young men that are involved. But as coaches, we can't put stock in that. We have to evaluate them our way, they'll evaluate them their way. And again, the uniqueness and the fit for each university is so important. You can't build your football team or our football team on what other people are saying. It's the people that are in our offices and understand the student athletes that we're trying to go out and recruit to make the difference for Wisconsin. And that's how we go about it, that's how we believe in it. If they rate them high, then I don't know, if some deem that as a bonus, then I guess it's a bonus, but I deem it as a non-factor, but I do respect what those people do, and it is their job, and it's a fun part of college football for a lot of people.
Tracy is a guy that you brought in. He's listed as safety here, but he was also ranked pretty highly as a running back. Just talk a little bit about how you plan to use him.
Well, he could be highly involved in the special teams side of things, potential returner as we continue to move through the process. He's walking in here as a defensive back, and again, he is defensive back. Could he potentially be a corner? Could he be a safety? Could he be a nickel? Could he be a dime? Yes, he could be all of those things. And as we see how these new receivers walk into the mix, as we see how our receivers are in the program, who are working unbelievably hard to be great at the wide receiver position, we'll see where it sits for Serge at the end. But he is definitely walking here as a defensive back, and he understands that. And we recruited him no different. We don't pull punches and pretend to recruit a kid for one position and then move him to the next position. We will move kids in positions, but we won't recruit them. And we'll walk in here and recruit them as a wide receiver, and the first day they're here, they're going to play corner. We'll be open-minded and truthful with them. Then if we see it later, then we'll have to move them as we go through the process.
Gary, because you had to devote so many scholarships to both lines and wide receiver, did some areas fall a little short, maybe like linebacker? And is that an area where walk-ons can really make a difference?
Yeah, that's a great example. The situation with the linebackers when we started this class is we really wanted to be able to sign 2 to 3 inside linebackers. I think we helped ourselves in the walk-on spot there at the inside linebacker, moving Joe Schobert to inside linebacker, put us in a position at that point to take 1, and that's exactly what we did. We felt very good about the youth and the older kids in the program at the outside linebacker position, so those spots ended up getting eaten up by another offensive lineman or potentially another defensive back.
Gary, what was recruiting like in the Big Ten after your first full year on the job, and the competitiveness, the time compared to what you were used to?
I would say this: it's the speed of it is so much faster. It starts right now for next year, and you've got to get yourself in the mix. I go back to it time and time again, but recruiting is a relationship-based situation for the kids and for the coaches, and that will never change. It is highly competitive in the Big Ten, but it's respectful in the Big Ten, I would say that. The teams we run across in the Big Ten have tremendous respect for each other, just as you can see that on the play on the field. It's not a situation where there's bantering back and forth and bad things being said about schools, and that's not always true out there in the recruiting process, so I continue to gain respect for this league in that area as I do in many other areas.
We've got time for just a couple more. Brian?
Gary, can you quantify just how important Thomas Hammock was to this process, not only this class, but what he's done the last few years here?
What Thomas has done is, on the football field, you all know, he's had some very talented players, and he's made them very good football players. He's been a big part of making them good football players. He's a tremendous communicator. He's been a big part of the offense. I appreciate the way Thomas has dealt with the transition. I appreciate the fact that Thomas Hammock wanted to be at Wisconsin when we came here and really didn't bat an eye. I still remember when Coach walked into my office the first day we were here, and he said, you got a running back coach that really wants to be here in the worst way, and we should think about keeping him if it's the right fit. And it obviously was a right fit. That didn't take any time for me to be able to see that. So he's meant a lot to Wisconsin, and let me just say this: Wisconsin means a lot to Thomas Hammock, and it always will. And as he moves forward, this is something that the Thomas has wanted for a long time. Some people want to coach professional football, and it's been a driving force of his for quite a few years, and it's where he sees the best spot for him and his family, which I have the utmost respect for the decision that he has to make. And it all comes with a little bit of difficulty, but we'll move on, we'll be just fine, and he'll move on, and he'll be just fine. But you know, I think I have a good friend in Thomas Hammock and a guy that I can trust, and I believe many coaches on our staff feel the exact same way. And you know, he's grateful of Wisconsin for the opportunity.
Zach?
Here, I know you have a whole bunch of new guys coming in today, but you also have some guys leaving. It was reported that there's going to be some guys stepping away from the program due to injury. Can you update on anything on that at all?
You know, we'll come out with that. I think, other than just, you know, single out those kids. We had a couple young men that are in medical situations that it's just not best for them to continue and play football. It sounds like a broken record, but the ability that those kids have to be in this program and still continue their education, you know, goes right back to what Wisconsin's all about. It's about the kids' academics. It's about the kids' lives and continually help them grow and develop, more so than it is getting them on the football field. And those are tough decisions for families, tough decisions for coaches, but when it becomes apparent that, you know, football is not the right thing you'd be doing from a physical standpoint, and that comes back from the trainers, comes back from the doctors, we have full support from that from our football staff, and obviously the athletic department, Coach Alvarez and his people have full support to allow those kids to continue on and get their education.
Thanks, Coach. We have